It is election day, and I'm sure many of you will be going out voting later today if you haven't done so already. There are 36 Senate seats up for grabs, with the Republicans needing a net gain of 6 seats to take control. Meanwhile, all 435 seats in the House are in play, and 14 of the nearly 40 governor's races are considered toss-ups. Now, if the Republicans do manage to wrestle control of the Senate from the Democrats, as some observers expect it could mean turbulence for the Federal Reserve, our central bank. And WSJ's Victoria McGrane has the story, and she joins us now. Victoria, thank you very much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
So there is a lot of skepticism from Republicans about the way that the Federal Reserve does its job. Explain what the major beef is, please.
Well, take your pick. I mean, Republicans have been very critical and very sort of skeptical of the Fed on the monetary policy side, QE. When the Fed a couple of weeks ago ended QE, you saw Republicans welcome that, but then immediately say that they wanted, to see interest rates rise and the balance sheet to get back to normal. So that's still going to be something that's going to garner a lot of criticism from Republicans, that the Fed's not moving fast enough. And then on the regulatory side, you have kind of more of a bipartisan skepticism about, is the Fed doing enough to rein in the largest financial institutions? Is it a tough enough regulator? And so I think kind of across the board, with Republicans in charge in the Senate, you would see more hearings, more criticism, more attention paid to the Fed in all of its various roles. And
of course, one of those criticisms is legitimate, because the Federal Reserve was in charge of regulating the banks in the run-up to the financial crisis, or at least certainly some of the larger ones, and they clearly didn't do the right job there. Will this go beyond the usual sort of grandstanding we've seen in the Senate and the House, where basically the elected officials get to hear the sound of their own voice and say how awful the Federal Reserve is?
Well, in terms of legislation actually becoming law, I think the chances are very slim that anything dramatic is going to change on that front. Republicans, even if they take control, won't have 60 votes that you need to basically get anything passed in the Senate. And then at the end of the day, President Obama still has the veto pen, and he would veto anything. But it could be, the pressure. It's harder to quantify how it actually changes behavior, but it is certainly, from the Fed's perspective, less ideal than the days of Alan Greenspan, where there was a certain deference overall to what the Fed did. So the folks that I've talked to think that they can really impact in subtle ways how the Fed goes about its job if they're constantly under fire, which I think would be more so with Republicans in charge of the Senate than they have been to date.
And of course, the head office of the Fed is down there in Washington. One of the things we've known for many years is Ron Paul, a libertarian, one-time member of the House for many, many years, wanted the Fed to be audited. And while on the face of it, that sounds fine, how much gold is in the coffers, it actually goes beyond that. It would be sort of slicing and dicing every decision the Fed made, wouldn't it?
Right. That legislation, which is still very much alive thanks to Ron Paul's son, Rand Paul, in the Senate, it would open the monetary policy deliberations to the Government Accountability Office and congressional scrutiny in a way that Fed officials and other experts say could really threaten the Fed's independence. But that bill has passed the House earlier this fall, and there's a chance that would get farther in the Senate. It hasn't gotten really any distance in the Senate. Again, unlikely to become law, but again, that if that bill progresses, it's time and energy that the Fed has to spend kind of defending against it in a way that they haven't had to in the Senate, at least to date.
So it could be big change for them. Thank you very much, Victoria McGrane. We appreciate your time.